have 15 horror books under 300 pages that I gave 5 stars, and I'm so excited to talk to you about them. I guess you could classify this as my favorite short horror. Committing to these being my favorite is really scary, but these are all of the ones that I gave 5 stars, so I guess so it makes sense. I have 15 to talk to you about today. I love all of these books. Also, this shirt is on my dog. You can't really see him, but he is why I am a little bit to the side. I obviously have other short horror books that I love, but these are my absolute favorites. Let me know your favorite horror book under 300 pages in the comments. While all of these are 5 stars for me, they're not all-time favorites, but I would still recommend all of them. So I'm going to start with the 3 longest. These ones I wouldn't really classify as novellas, but they are all under 300 pages. So the first one made it on my favorites list of 2023, and that is Natural Beauty by Ling Wang. This is a literary horror that follows a woman who ends up working at this high-end beauty shop, and they make her test out these products on herself. All of these employees have to do this. There's just this undercurrent of weirdness throughout the whole book, and then when you find out what is happening, it's stressful. It's so good. It's so messed up. This one is 251 pages. I could not put this book down. It's not like extremely fast-paced, but it's so interesting that I needed to know what was happening. This has really great discussions in it with race and with the beauty community and the standards that are put on women. It's very quiet horror, but I think the way it's done is so effective and I'm obsessed with it. Next is Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. I know that this is not a book for everybody. It's so vague and like nothing is explicitly said, but once again there's just this like undercurrent of something weird happening, and I just needed to know what was going on. We are following a woman who at the beginning doesn't remember her life before a certain point, and then her father dies and some people from her past come and they're like, hey, you were on this TV show with us, and it abruptly ended and we are trying to figure out the backstory behind everything, because like nobody remembers this TV show the same. There's like online forums and all of this stuff that are saying, oh, it's this one thing, like it's for sure this character was a puppet, and other people are convinced it was a man, like the Mandela effect. And our main character is like, well, I need to know my past, and she goes, and then there's somebody interviewing them for a podcast, but it's done like in a basement with a video call, and like you don't know who's running it. This one is so vague and ambiguous. I would also really recommend reading the author's note at the end before you start this book. I was told what was in the author's note beforehand, and I think it enhanced my experience. I've seen people that have read it and then read the author's note say that they don't really see the stuff in the author's note in the book, but I for sure saw it when I went in with that knowledge. I don't necessarily think that that's how a book should be, and I think that I would have enjoyed it anyway. This book is glittery. That's very cool. Anyway, this one is weird and vague and not really explained, so make sure you know that going in, but I had a great time with this. This one is 288 pages. Next, I have The Spite House by Johnny Compton. This is another slower one. I guess I'm seeing a pattern, especially in my not super short, but still short horror. We are following a father and 2 daughters who are on the run from something. You don't know what it is, and they end up going to this spite house, which is a property that is built to spite somebody on either side of it. Usually they're like really skinny and like in between buildings and stuff like that. But there's a woman that owns it, and she claims that hers is haunted, so he is going to do investigating. This is a very unique kind of haunted house book in my opinion. It was so interesting the way that things were done in here. Just like, I was so into it. I really liked the characters. I liked this family, and I thought this had some really cool elements in it with the ghosts. This one wasn't one that I felt scared while reading, but I was still really invested the whole time. Now I have some shorter ones. Also, if you're curious, my dog is wearing a shirt because he has allergies and is scratching himself like really bad, so that is to help that, not because I just put t-shirts on my dog. The rest of the stack is in no particular order. First up, I have Tastes Like Candy by Ivy Tholen. This is a slasher, and it is following a younger group of kids, but it is still an adult book. They are about to start their senior year, and there's like these chosen few that are picked to do this scavenger hunt by the previous year's scavenger hunt group. Usually it is at their school, and this year for some reason it has been switched to the local amusement park. So for the first half of the book, we are getting everybody's backstory, really getting to know all of the characters and their relationship. So then when the slashing starts to happen in the second half, you feel more connected to these characters. This one was so fun. There were a lot of really interesting kill scenes in here. Like, I had physical reactions to a lot of these, and I cared about the characters by the end. This one was just a lot of fun, and it does get pretty gory and gross. I'm just going to stick with the rest of the slashers on this list. Next up is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This one I love this book. It's not specifically what you think it is going to be. We are following a friend group who wants to have one last prank before the summer ends, and one of their friends works at a movie theater, so the other ones take this mannequin that they used to play with as kids and dresses it up, and then the mannequin starts to kill people, and the main character has a plan to save everybody. The last slasher I have is Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess. This is set at a carnival. We're following a group of high schoolers who are going on their senior trip, and they are not having a fun time with it. They kind of ditch their trip and end up at this abandoned carnival, Cirque Berserk, where in the past there was a massacre, and things very quickly start to go wrong. This one had a really fun twist in it. I think it was really interesting. There's some music aspects in this which I really enjoyed, and I just had such a great time with this one. Next, I have two books by the same author. The first one is You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. I don't know how to explain this. This is a story within a story. One of them is these two men, and one of them is in prison for murdering the other, and then inside of that is the story that the one that murdered his partner wrote. I don't know what to say about this book. There's a lot of unexplained things. It's weird. It feels kind of random, but like for some reason it just really, really worked for me. I know that that is not selling the book. The story within the story is a guy that designs video games, and then the main character of that story is going with her brother to intern with him, and then really strange things start to happen. Like, she's not able to actually speak to him, and it's just strange. I kind of want to reread this one to see if I can pick up on more clues the second time, but this one just like made me so intrigued. And then I also have We Can Never Leave This Place by Eric LaRocca. I'm gonna turn the cover around because I don't want to get in trouble, but this is following a family, and they're living in this like apocalyptic time. We don't really know any details about the outside world, but at the very beginning the father dies and his body is brought back, and then her mother invites a very unusual guest into their house. This one definitely has some dark fantasy elements in it, and it's so weird, but the way this wraps up, I'm obsessed with it. Next, I have When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen. This is following a woman who fled her very racist hometown. She is both distancing herself from the town and her best friend, and then her best friend invites her to her wedding that happens to take place at the plantation in said town, and this plantation is rumored to be haunted by the slaves that used to work there, so they have to acknowledge their history as friends. There's something that happened in the past, and then also the terrible history of this location. There's reenactments of how things used to be on the plantation. It's so disturbing, and I think this had some really interesting elements in it with the haunting. Next, I have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This one is a little hard to get into. I would recommend the audiobook for this one. The writing very much feels like it's a classic. It is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. We are following a main character, Alex, who is a retired soldier, and their friend Madeline Usher is dying, and they are requested to come. They find a disturbing fungal growth at this house, and her brother Roderick, who lives there, is just like this nervous being, and Alex has to uncover the secrets of this house before it starts to impact everybody. This one is slower moving, and it did take me a little bit to get into, but the stuff that happens, so weird. I have not been numbering them, but number 11 is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. This is one that started on Reddit, on No Sleep, I believe, and we are getting the manuscript of this guy posting on an online forum called Why I Almost Quit Medicine on mdconfessions.com. So it's somebody else like retyping this story for people, but we are following a psychiatrist who is dealing with a patient who has been in this care facility for his entire life, and there's clearly something wrong with him, but no one can figure out what it is. But every person who has encountered this man has gone mad or has committed suicide, and this psychiatrist is confident in his skills and decides to take on this patient. This one is so interesting. It made me really stressed when reading it because, like, what is happening with this patient? And then the things that happen at the end. This is one that I want to reread. Number 12, Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. This is a very short one. It is cosmic horror. We are following a man who is in a grocery store at the beginning, and he sees this child just like stuffing sour candy into his mouth. And then his mother is really weird, and he finds himself in a situation where this child is now claiming that he is his son. This one just made me so uncomfortable, and the ending, like, I don't know what happened, but just so good. I've read a couple from this author since then, but this one is my favorite. It's just, I don't know, it's so messed up. It's so weird. Can you imagine a creepy kid just like latching onto you and being like, hello, you're my dad? The next three all made my favorites list the year that I read them. I have two others that also made my favorites list. I talked about Natural Beauty at the beginning, and then Night of the Mannequins was one of my favorites the year that I read it. So those two plus these three, I guess, would be my top recommendations from this list. But obviously I love all of these books. So number 13 is We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III. This is following a family who gets trapped in a bathroom during a tornado. They are all terrible. I hate the dad. The brother's annoying, but we are watching them kind of trying to survive each other, and then also the weird things that are going on around them. This one just, like, I don't know what it is about this book, but I freaking love it. I think it's fun but also disturbing. There's this like one scene that I can just like picture in my mind, even though I don't picture things when I read. Do not watch the movie. It's not good. But yeah, this family hates each other. They're awful. So bad. And then there's like some very interesting things for like what caused this tornado and led them to be stuck in here. This one, I love it. Next up is This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. This is following a woman. Her and her fiance are about to get married, and she decides that she wants to try to reconnect with her mom before they get married. So she agrees to go on a cabin trip with her for the weekend to reconnect. She gets there, and it is an exact replica of her childhood home. Her mom even has adult versions of her like iconic clothes as a kid, like things she remembers wearing. And her mom really wants to like reconnect and make them this happy family again. This one stresses me out. This mother sucks, but she's also dealing with this trauma and grief of losing her husband, and it's just so I'm stressed thinking about it. It's so fun, and like also pissed me off, and was just like, it was so tense, and I love this one. Oh, I forgot to mention that they're snowed in, which like adds to the creepiness because Miller really wants to escape, but like she can't because of the snow, and her mom is just so creepy, and I hate it and I love it. And finally, number 15 is Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. This is actually 6 stories in one that all combine. We are watching a man kind of reflect on stories from his past. So we know that there's something connecting these stories, and he has just figured it out. So watching these different events happen to him with the knowledge of what is to come. There's one story in here that is truly like my favorite thing. I wanted to scream. Like when I read it, I was freaking out. It was so stressful. I love this. I love it. I love it. I love this book. But it's really fun to be able to like pick up on pieces of these seemingly unrelated stories and like seeing how they all relate to each other. So we are watching him as a kid, and it's just, this one is truly one of my favorites. So just in case you wanted to see them all together, these are the 5 that ended up on my favorites list the year that I read them. But all of these are my favorite horror books under 300 pages. I tend to like either slow and like weird undertones and like creepy vibes, or very fast-paced and like a lot of things going on to keep you engaged. Very opposite, but I mean, based on the things in my list, that is what I like. Once again, let me know any of your favorites in the comments. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say you were here, you can leave me cotton candy or a skull for Taste Like Candy. I hope you enjoy these books. Bye!